Hello, my name is Layla Fitzgerald, and I live in Camden, New Jersey. Unfortunately, Camden, New Jersey is a food desert. A food desert is a geographic area in which access to foods that are healthy and affordable is either limited or non-existent. In the US, these green squares represent food deserts. The map is from 2013, but right now, during the pandemic, the problem is probably much worse. A recent study indicates that 1 in 5 children in the US is malnourished. The lack of fresh food can lead to numerous negative effects. This is the closest food store to where I live. When I walk to my local food store, this is all that is available for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This is my own food pantry. There is a limited supply of food sources. Saccharomyces cerevisiae may be an answer to the issue of my food supply. This egg-shaped fungus eats sugars through a process called fermentation, which releases carbon dioxide. This is what causes bread dough to inflate and rise.
In addition to its use in baking, there are many possible ways to use yeast. Our biodesign project focuses on the ways the Egyptians used yeast. The Egyptians thought that yeast was a miracle and bread was a major part of their daily caloric intake. There were few animals available for the common citizen to eat, so breads were shaped into animals for everyday consumption. These loaves were significant to rituals and festivals. With a lack of animals in their diet, the Egyptians did something that was interesting with their bread. They would break up hard loaves into small pieces and create a porridge in which yeast would grow. This grown food source was a significant part in the protein in their diet. This led the biodesign group at Rutgers to wonder if we could take the poor quality food available to us in a food desert and feed it to yeast in order to grow our own supply of protein. So we started researching yeast. We found out that it reproduces asexually to create a bleb, or a daughter microorganism. This forms from the mother cell and separates. But when fed sugar, yeast cells multiply rapidly, which is great for us humans because yeast is 50% protein by body weight. Our interest in growing yeast led us to Jens Nelson from Chalmers Institute in Sweden. According to Dr. Nelson, our idea is something that he has been researching, and he gave us some great tips on how to turn our junk food into a nutritious supply of protein.
You would like to have a sugar concentration in the order of 2% mass.
Okay.
But you can easily go up to 5% mass. So 50 grams per liter. Then it's easier. Then just throw a little bit of the dry active yeast in there.
Okay.
And then you will see that the solution gets a little bit more turbid. That's because you see the yeast cells. Okay.
Okay.
It doesn't need really to mix, but it's preferentially if it's mixed, because otherwise the yeast will sediment at the bottom.
Okay.
And you probably don't have a mixer, but if you can find out how to, then you will see but you have to do it for many hours because it doesn't go that fast. We're talking about 12, 18 hours.
Wow.
So you don't want to stand like, So
Okay.
we're talking about overnight. But then basically one yeast cell will become two yeast cells, two will become four, four will become eight. So you'll have exponential growth there, and that's why it'll go very fast. And you'll see if it becomes more turbid. You can just filter it, right?
Okay.
Dr. Nelson suggested that we start with either a bath of urine or a bath of ammonium sulfate, which has been enriched with vitamins for growing yeast. Armed with this great advice, we decided to go the ammonium sulfate route and order our supplies. In our current state of quarantine, we send each team member a packet that contains yeast, vitamins for brewing, which the team plans to ultimately source from foods around the house, and ammonium sulfate, which could also potentially be sourced from uric acid. These items were packed and sent out to each member of the team, creating a series of connected collabs. In the geographical area that allowed each member of the group to select a type of sugary food item found in the region of New Jersey. The team assembled and began to feed their yeast. Through trial and error, the team came up with a series of best practices for growing protein out of junk food. The first step is to get a large bowl containing 1 liter of purified water. Add 1,000 grams of ammonium sulfate powder and yeast vitamins. Add 50 grams of sugar, or whatever sort of sugary junk food that you have. The sugar should be 2 to 5% of the amount of ammonium sulfate. Add a sprinkle of baker's yeast and agitate for 12 to 18 hours. In a lab, we would have the equipment to gently mix our solution. At home, however, the team had to be creative. For our how-to slides, we use an aquarium pump at one collab site. We also used the vibration of a washing machine. At another site, they took their mixture for a long car ride. However you choose to mix your solution, once the protein has formed, pour the mixture through a filter. 1 to 2 microns is best. Once the yeast is rinsed and dried, it can be added to a canister and eaten like brewer's yeast. Our team was so excited with our produced protein supply that we started experimenting with our own yeast starter, so that people who don't have access to store-bought yeast can simply start it themselves. We envision this system to be by and for local communities. This has led to the creation of Yeasties, a community collab for domestic protein production. Because the ingredients needed to make Yeasties could potentially be sourced from common food items and inexpensive forms of sugar, this domestically produced protein is extremely inexpensive. Our work has led to multiple Yeasty system ideas, which include a self-starter kit, a fast-pass yeast packet, reusable containers, a Yeasties cookbook, and even Yeasties merch. We are so pleased with our system that we even created this commercial for you.
Do you suffer from diabetes, depression, apathy, loss of strength, or chronic health problems? Do you live in a food desert? Or are you simply tired of eating the same old sugary junk foods? Then the Yeasties system might be for you. Key to our system is the use of yeast. Yeast is an egg-shaped microorganism. It's a fungi that eats sugar and grows rapidly. 50% of the weight of yeast is nutrient-dense protein. Yeasties Protein to the People system feeds yeast sugary junk foods in order to grow nutrient-dense proteins. Our system is so easy to use that even a child could do it. Simply take your sugary junk food, add to our special protein growing solution, and mix for 12 to 18 hours. And voila, you have a nutrient-dense, yummy yeast. Our system is gluten-free, harm-free, and, because it can be sourced from items you may already have, practically free. So the next time you're trying to decide what to eat, give Yeasties a try. Yeasties Proteins to the People. It's the yeast you can do for yourself, your community, and your 9 billion neighbors on planet Earth.
Thanks, Yeasties.
So, back to my home in Camden, New Jersey. The question still remains, would I rather eat a slushie from my local corner store? Or would I like a bowl of Yeasties' homegrown nutritional yeast flakes? I'll go for the bowl of Yeasties, and I hope that you do too.